The Boys. Final episode premiered today. Wow, that seemed like it went fast. I mean, those episodes, I guess because we
Oh
got the
yeah,
first three episodes right off the bat. That, yeah.
yeah. That's kind of how it goes with Amazon shows. I feel like is this and Invincible the only ones doing that on that network?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think so, because I think stuff like Reacher dropped all at once. I think other shows do it all at once, but they know that this is a hit. So,
Yeah, they're gonna make you wait. Yeah, wait it out,
Mhm.
and I think it's great to really watch it week to week. It's something to look forward to week to week. It's like, hey, the boys is out. Let's go watch it. In this third season of The Boys, we reviewed up till I think it was 4 or 5 that we did before we were gone. Those reviews are also on YouTube if you guys want to check it out. Our thoughts on those episodes, because we were reviewing it weekly along with kind of like other series like Kenobi and everything like that. In this season, you have it where the boys are trying to really concoct a plan to finally kill Homelander. Homelander, who seems like is going further and further off the deep end. And as we talked about in the series, Anthony Starr is doing an amazing job as Homelander. Probably one of the best
Mhm.
villains on TV right now. Just everything about him, it's always great to watch the show because every scene you really just don't know who's gonna make it out. You know what I mean? Even even the main characters, it's like, is this person gonna go? Is this person gonna go? That tension that is there always when he's on screen is great and is really amazing. So in this season, it kind of deals with a lot of them trying to find a solution to Homelander, finally trying to find a weapon to kill him. That weapon may be in the form of Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy, who is a new addition to the cast this season, is played by Jason Eccles. Jason Eccles, who's worked with Eric Kripke before, notably on the Supernatural series. The Supernatural series, which I was the first aware of Jason Eccles. Who I thought did a very, very great job on that series. Supernatural, if you have never checked it out, I recommend it. Stop after season 5. Don't watch till season 35. Just stop right
Yeah,
there at season
I'm,
5.
yeah, and yeah, it's like the first 5 seasons of Supernatural. They're very focused on Sam and Jared Padalecki's character, but after that, the show becomes much more focused on Dean, who's played by Jensen Ackles. I guess because the writers realized that one, Dean's a much more interesting character than Sam, and Jensen's a far better actor.
Yeah, yeah. So if you guys wanted to check that out, I recommend if this is your first time seeing Jason Ackles in The Boys, I recommend his other work like Supernatural. So here he plays Soldier Boy, who is a Captain America kind of parody that you see. He was part of a team
Mhm.
back in the day called Payback, which Payback is essentially the Avengers parody, much how like the Dawn, the Seven are a parody of the Justice League from DC Comics. And Soldier Boy from in this show, kind of how much of this show is not very much close to, is not close at all probably to the comic representation. What I know about the comic representation, the comic version of Soldier
Mhm.
Boy, he is nothing like how this character is in the show. Soldier Boy in the comics,
Yeah, the, yeah, the Soldier Boy of the show would fold the Soldier Boy in the comic like a pretzel.
yeah, very much so. Because in the comics, Soldier Boy is very much like a mantle that kind of gets passed down from person to person. Here, it's always been one person. Yeah,
Yeah, the comics Soldier Boy is a legacy title. It's like there have been three. Two of them die horrifically. The one that's introduced in the Herogasm story of the boys is basically Ted Cruz with superpowers,
yeah, that's kind of what he's
and
been
that he's
described as.
also a sniveling little, in the sense that he is a sniveling little bitch boy, much like Ted Cruz.
Yeah. So you kind of have that. And a lot of people have been also, remarking about how this show is so heavily different from the comics and how happy they are with that. And a lot of people are surprised about how the comic, how edgelordy it is, how it's become, how it adapted to be one of the best shows on all of TV. which is very, very surprising to a lot of people. And with this season, I think it continues the strong nature of the boys. I think, so far, I don't think it's had a bad season. In regards to where does this season rank amongst the other seasons, it's tough to say because I'd have to probably go back and really rewatch all the seasons again. I don't want to have recency bias to go like, well, this was the best season. But I thought again, the boys really does a lot of great stuff here and leaves you wanting to see a season four. I think after this season, it just comes to like, okay, how long could you continue this, and how far can we really go with these type of character dynamics? One more season, two more seasons. Typically I'm a guy that goes like a show really kind of shouldn't really go past 5 seasons because I think you could get all the material there
I'd
out of
argue four.
four.
Four is peak.
I'd say like 4 to 6 seasons at most.
Okay.
Six is really pushing it.
4 to 6 if you're being generous.
Yeah. Four is peak. End it there. 5 if you really have enough material to push it to 5, but don't push it further than that.
But with this, I think Eric Kripke is writing this show with the definitive end in mind. Especially without before we get into spoilers, the way this season ends, there is an end date for the show. It might be next season, it might be the season after that. We don't know.
Yeah. Eric Kripke does come into a show with a plan, like he did with Supernatural. He had his plan for that show, and he did what he did and he left. So it could be the same situation here with the boys, where he is coming to this with a plan, and a perfect conclusion he wants to come here. What were kind of your guys' thoughts on season 3 of the boys? Favorite moments, any least favorite moments, everything like that.
So for me, the boys comic is not good at all, and it's not good. It is essentially Garth Ennis punishing himself and his audience for ever liking any aspect of the superhero genre, and it is very just like edgelordy frat boy with a Fight Club poster kind of sense of humor. But how he handles this show, up until like the whole like big selling point of the season was episode 6 of this was going to be adapting Hero Gap, which is basically just one big superhero orgy. And the fact that he managed to take that story, adapt it the way he did, and end up making one of the best episodes of the show in terms of how it still plays around with the character dynamics, how it advances every single character's arc. It's masterful television, and it has one of the most satisfying endings out of all of these.
Okay. Dusk?
I agree wholeheartedly with Nick. I've had a problem with the writer who made The Boys and Preacher. He has very interesting ideas, but he seems to hate the field he went into. Really does not like superheroes, and just basically for an entire comics run punished you for ever liking the superhero mantle. So much so that ironically we got one of the best Superman comic runs because of it, who answered equivocally because of The Boys. And that's where we get the famous "What's Wrong with Truth, Justice, and the American Way" from Superman versus the Elites. That actually came out relatively around when The Boys was running, and a lot of people in the comic medium who are people who worked with, that was like the rebuttal, which is, okay, and your point? Ultimately, yeah, you can have Homelander, that's fine. He's just a big, dumb oaf who's a narcissist in your comic series. While Superman the Elites, he fights a gang of misfits and people who abuse their power and want to get things done, and Superman in response.
The Elite, he's essentially fighting the boys. I mean, there's a lot of overlap in kind of like Manchester Black and Billy Butcher.
Exactly. That's the point. It's supposed to be an overlap, but Superman answers it in the best concise reason why superheroes exist, and why it's important to have dreams and aspirations, and why it's important to believe that humanity is worth time and worth helping each other and doing whatever. It's a beautiful comic, and really accentuates why Superman is so had such longevity as a character and will continue to do so. because he is an inspiring character.
And unequivocally why all of these like modern what if Superman was evil
It
stories
doesn't work. Doesn't work. Just from the get-go cannot work because the character is the personification of hope. And you can't destroy that. Quoting from V for Vendetta, it's more than a symbol, and symbols are bulletproof. And you can't destroy that. But
well, I mean, you like Omni-Man, don't you?
Yeah, I'm sorry?
Well, don't you two like Omni-Man?
We do, but he's less of a Superman. He's less of a Superman parody and more of like or more of a Vegeta type character.
Yeah, very more. He is superhero. He is equivalent to Superman and only in powers.
There is much more Dragon Ball in Invincible than there is Superman.
Yeah, it really is its own thing. But the reason I brought up, and I agree with Nick on that, is just like the TV show Preacher that was released on AMC, they've taken a piece of work that didn't quite work in the comic, but was a neat idea, and then found a way to take all those ideas and really, really embellish on them and make them better.
And
really work with them.
And like the main reason that the Boys show works so well is they add this little thing. I don't know if you guys heard of it. I'm pretty sure Garth Ennis hasn't ever.
Yeah.
Called nuance.
Oh yeah, nuance.
In depth, and allowing all of your antagonists to also be characters in this show.
Yeah.
For as despicable as a character like Homelander and even Soldier Boy to an extent, especially you get moments with them where you understand. It's something that we talked about, that Josh, you and I talked about during our Euphoria review about like the character Nate Jacobs. You hate this character, but you understand. You're asked to have empathy with them. You're not asked to have sympathy.
Yeah. Yeah, with this series, I think it's done, kind of from what I know about the comics, a kind of head and shoulders better job than what the comic did. And if you're kind of looking for comic accuracy when it comes to this show, you're not going to get it because there's tons of different changes. There's tons of different changes they make from the comic that's kind of there. And I think a lot of people have said it's for the better. And I loved a lot what they do. And then with this season kind of coming into it, with the addition of kind of Soldier Boy being this character, I think, the big theme with this season seems like it's men and their relationship to their fathers. That was kind of like, it seems like that was kind of the big theme of this season, because you see the relationship of Jason Ackles there. And this is a spoiler review for The Boys season 3. We're going to be doing whole spoilers there. I don't know if we mentioned that at the beginning. But you see kind of the relationship there, Jason Ackles, like when there's in the last episode, Soldier Boy talks about the relationship he had with his father. And we already know the myriad of mother-daddy issues that Homelander has, being a guy that was raised in a lab and constantly experimented on.
And we are well aware of Homelander's mommy fetish.
Yeah, we see that there. And we also see Stan Edgar bring that up, where he says, you looking for approval, like I'm your daddy. Yeah,
it's like Giancarlo. He has so many moments. As an actor, I feel like he gets typecast as Gus Fring types a lot. But his moments where he just shits on Homelander always make me laugh. It's like, where a little respect, where would even go besides that bottomless pit of insecurity you call a soul?
Yeah, but there's also great little scenes with Homelander that one of my favorites, and I mean, if he's not nominated for something, that scene where he's talking to himself in the mirror is absolutely chilling.
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful. And everything when he's talking about it, you just see, you are what you made them, guys. And and he's starting to let go of his leash. He's starting to pull it off of his neck. I don't know how much more shit Edgar can keep talking him, because it's not going to end up like the comics where nothing happens to Edgar. That's not the same Homelander. He's not an idiot like he is in this show. This show, he's actually smart.
Yeah, and something that is so well done is that dynamic between Edgar and Homelander. Is that Edgar knows that Homelander can just murder the shit out of him at any moment. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
Mm.
Edgar is Edgar's. It's also interesting because when you really break it down, Homelander so desperately wants to be loved and desire, at least just be respected and desired by somebody. He keeps looking for it, and now that it's starting to come to go ahead, he's starting to make that realization that he's just like, well, maybe if I just remove that part of myself, I can be truly unstoppable.
That's
Do I
that's
really need approval
that's
from anyone?
yeah, but that's like the chilling part of
Yeah,
the very last scene of the episode.
it is.
That's what makes that so terrifying
It
because
does.
I don't know if we want to give it away now.
Now we
No,
can
not
wait.
now. We're gonna wait till we get there.
Yeah, I think this finale isn't as strong as season 2's is, but the threads that it sets up for season 4 are beautifully
Yeah.
terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Go ahead.
So a lot of big kind of moments with this season. Like I said, they're trying to look for a way. They're trying to use the boys. They're trying to use Soldier Boy as a weapon to kill Homelander. But it's a little tit for tat because in order for Soldier Boy for him to kill Homelander, they're also helping him hunt down members of his old team Payback. Because you see him kind of going around and kind of hunting old members of his team. You also kind of see, I think this season, I think now that's in season 3, you see a lot more moments with the other boys members, like with Mother's Milk, who I think was really his season this season out of the boys members. I think he really got a lot of great stuff to do
Yeah,
this season.
same. I think if it's something that this show has improved drastically since season 2 was giving more character beats to the other members of the boys. Like Laz Alonso, he's phenomenal in this season. Karen Fukuhara as Kimiko, she gets so much more depth. And also, one of the greatest performances in a comic book show without a single line of spoken dialogue.
Yeah. I think they do a lot more stuff with the other boys members here, and like we talked about, like a lot of father issues you see with Mother's Milk is haunted by the murder of his family, by Soldier Boy, and how that trauma is carrying over into now with his daughter, and then his relationship with his child. You kind of see that of his constant need to for revenge against Soldier Boy. But yeah, I think a lot of great stuff with him this season. The stuff with Frenchie and his storyline with Little Nina, I just was never that into it. I was never that interested in it. I think it kind of, I don't think it really goes anywhere except for maybe, I guess the point of that storyline was to set up, Frenchie being a little bit more independent away from, people telling him what to do. And then the stuff with Kimiko was just like her realizing that the powers aren't what make her a monster. Maybe she kind of was always had a little bit of that inside her, but the powers help her defend the people that she loves, and most importantly, it helps her defend Frenchie, for instance, a person that she cares about and loves. And
and speaking of like what you were saying about how like the main theme of this season is fathers and daddies. Speaking of Jensen Ackles, but it's also a little bit elements of touching on the big theme of 2022, generational trauma.
Yeah, generational trauma, baby. Add it to the list.
Generational trauma, baby.
Yeah.
And just talking about Laz Alonso's Mother's Milk, his arc, you get an entire episode where you flash back to Butcher's childhood and the abuse that he faced with his father, who appeared briefly in season 2, played by John Noble.
Yeah.
And a whole reason why Butcher's arc takes the turn that it does with Huey.
Yeah. Dusk. What's kind of your opinion?
Yeah, I think a lot of characters get a little bit more time to shine the way they should. Specifically, Mother's Milk. Yeah, he finally gets just some moment to have a character in this, and they've done a lot better at getting characters to have little moments here and just kind of bring out character details, which is nice to see overall. Especially characters that we get to find reveals on, like characters like Noir or a couple of others, where they are very different. This season, if the other seasons were a change, differentiating, a little bit different from the comics. Season 3 feels the most different from the comics. Like,
they completely changed Black Noir from the comics. They also, in this season especially, they take more stylistic chances.
oh yeah,
Like there's an entire like musical sequence here, I think in episode 5, that I thought was pretty well done.
yeah.
And even in episode 7 with I don't want to give away the context, but there's an entire animated sequence in here that is brilliantly done. With any other show, they would have just felt like we did this because we wanted to. And they are doing that here, but they're also beats used to advance characters and their arcs.
I don't know really how much more I can really go into this without going into specifics, but I will say this. If you didn't like season 2, and I can understand if people didn't, if you weren't a fan of the show, season 2, maybe you liked season 1 and then thought season 2 fell off a bit, season 3 comes back. It rights the ship, and it starts going into better waters. And really, I can't see the series going any more than to season 4, 5 if you really push it. But I think if you're going to get back on board, now's the time. I think it's all right. If you haven't even watched The Boys at all, which is okay, totally cool if you hadn't even bothered, I think now would be a good time to hop on. I think you have enough stuff that you can get a fuller context of what's going on and kind of get ready for it to be finished off. I say with a heavy hope that they don't cock it up like they did Game of Thrones, and I end up regretting these words. But if you want to check it out, now's the time, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's also, like, if you're gonna compare this to something like Game of Thrones, one, the source material is already done, so there's no need for like Eric Kripke and co to like spin their wheels after they run out of book material. And two, the show has already like drastically improved the quality over the books.
Yeah. The other characters here, Huey, this season, I still like his character. I think they still did some good stuff with him. I did like his stuff with Starlight. And like I said, kind of a good theme of, like the season, generational trauma, fatherhood, boys and their fathers.
Toxic masculinity, especially in
and
his dynamic with Butcher and Soldier Boy.
Yeah. And, even kind of looking up to kind of guys like, Huey from his perspective, looking at guys like Butcher and Soldier Boy to even some degree. But then realizing, like, a lot of that stuff with Soldier Boy is bullshit. Him being this macho, tough guy. He never did D-Day. He never, stormed the beaches of Normandy. He never did any of that shit. He came in there for a photo shoot. It's like he...
little target practice at Kent State. Had a firing hose in Birmingham.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And so it's like kind of all that kind of stuff is bullshit.
Which is weird, though, because he's actually really good at fighting.
I guess there wouldn't be any harm in him actually storming anything because he can't get hurt. I mean, it's a character that can't, really physically get hurt at all, really.
Yeah. No, he feels like a better parody of what Captain America should have been. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're going to do a parody of Captain America, you take what are the negative aspects that could have been from nationalism and patriotism and really turn up the negative bad aspects, and you get Soldier Boy, someone who's an egotistical, narcissistical, patriotic, nationalist piece of crap who only cares about his own self-interest and how he's represented in film and his reputation, and doesn't let anyone else stand alongside him in any equal measure. Yeah. And then you give that guy superpowers, and you see what happens. Captain America is like the idealized what we hope we can kind of get with a kind of person like that. He's what a good person who's given all those opportunities becomes. Mm-hmm. And Soldier Boy is what would have happened if someone who was a bad guy or bad at heart was given the opportunity.
He's basically the what if the bully from the first Avengers got the super soldier.
Exactly. And this is what you get. And if you're horrified by it, you're making that guy's point. You should be, and and this is making the scientist's point.
Yeah. And there is that great scene where they do like when he wakes up and gets out into the world after being trapped there for 40 years. It's like the reaction that we expect Captain America to have when he woke up. It's like because he's kind of looking around, he's kind of going like, "What the fuck?" Like dudes holding
Like
hands.
sees two gay.
Yeah, it's like
It was like sees like a dad on a commercial with like, baby carriers. It was like, hey, Bill Cosby was America's dad, and he wouldn't be caught dead in that pussy gear.
Yeah.
And he used to make some strong drinks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he. I guess in the boys' universe, Bill Cosby made even such strong drinks it could knock out a person who had superpowers. It could affect.
You know what? Honestly, that's a double-layered joke, and I appreciate it. That was actually a pretty good joke. That works on many layers, and I appreciated that one.
Yeah, it's like which, speaking of the show, it does balance the action, its horror elements, and its comedy beats work so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the stuff with Huey, I think this season was a good. I don't think he's as strong as he's been in probably past seasons. I don't think. I think because they're exploring more of the other boys members.
I think Huey's arc might be one of the weaker of the season because it doesn't really come to a point up until the last episode where he does have that moment with Starlight where he kind of unpacks everything, and that's where I thought it works really well.
Yeah.
In possibly revisiting the season with that ending in mind might shift my opinion on his arc.
Yeah. I kind of some other I think kind of weaker elements this season. The reason why I don't think you could really is like how far can this show go is like stuff with the deep. I think he's pathetic again here as he was in past seasons. He's always been a pathetic, sniveling little character, and he's good for a good comedic moments where they even parody Gal Gadot's Imagine video. That's in here. That's funny. Like how they always bring in other real life pop culture stuff into this show.
Even included Black Noir with cue cards.
Yeah, I thought that was a good moment. They strike those moments really beautifully in the show. It's just that besides for him being a joke and like a sniveling coward and somebody who's pathetic, it's just like okay. I mean and he also there's a joke of him fucking the fish. It's like okay. I mean where else can we really go with this?
He is kind of a one-note joke, and he is possibly the weakest one in this season.
Yeah.
But that's also contrasted with A-Train, who actually takes an interesting turn.
Yeah, this season you saw with A-Train. Well, Dust, let me get your thoughts. What do you think about kind of the Deep this season?
The Deep is like a one-note character. He started off with 2 notes, and then as the series has gone on, they've demoted him to 1 note and focused on other things. And then with this season, they tried to give him like a little bit of a note back, but I think the damage is kind of done for his character. That unless something radically happens now, I honestly don't think they'll have much of a reason to bring him back unless he does something really stupid, which is possible, really, really possible for him to really just think he has. Go ahead, go for broke.
Yeah. I like I like the Deep. I like his the performance that Chase Crawford gives. It is very one note of just look how pathetic this guy is, but he plays that note really well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good performance. I like him. It's just like, okay, I mean, okay, you know what I mean? It's kind of just like, what else he got?
Weird thing to say about a sexual predator, but okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, that guy. I mean, and, now that in the show the 7 has become the 2,
the 3.
Yeah, well, I guess if you include Ashley, I guess, or I don't know if A-Train will stick around in next season. I don't know.
And that was, and speaking of the Deep, that was a really fun dynamic. Was delved in on of the Deep and Ashley, and just them using their together one brain cell.
Yeah, I mean, just their absolute fear of Homelander. This season.
It's like there's a line. It's like, is your idiot brain getting fucked by stupid?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like there they are. There they are. It's the 2 of them.
And who's the actress who plays Ashley? I forgot her name.
Oh, Colby Minifie. She is phenomenal on that. I recognize her mostly as being the bitchy neighbor from Jessica Jones.
Oh right, she was in that. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. 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 I mean, she's also very good in this show, and a lot of beats with her work very well. And I think even the ending of this season 3, they do kind of a good moment with her that maybe comes will come in handy later. This and you bring up A Train. So A Train this season, you see kind of at first he's trying to do a thing because the first beginning of the season, you know, if you remember, he has an issue with his heart from taking all that experimental kind of steroid version of Compound V. What was it called? I forgot
No,
the.
he was just shooting out Compound V.
Oh, okay. It was just like he was just taking straight Compound V. Okay.
Mhm.
And that had done all this damage to his heart. Now he can't, he can't run anymore. And also gets, fat shamed by Homelander. There's a lot of good, fat jokes by Homelander here to
I
A Train.
still see your girdle that you're wearing, you fat fuck.
I can still see your girdle, you disgusting fat fuck. Now get off the fucking stage.
Uh,
Says smiling the entire time he does it.
which was I thought there was that was that made for some kind of good comedy there, good good moments. And then he ends up is like, well, I want to reconnect back with my roots again.
That was hilarious.
And did a whole thing.
Reconnect back to my Africa roots.
A Train goes to Africa. What was it? Yeah, A Train. Yeah, runs to
Oh
Africa.
yeah, A Train to Africa.
Yeah.
Which I couldn't tell if that was like meant to be a dig at Marvel with all of the marketing behind Black Panther.
I think that was definitely a dig at Marvel. I mean, there was a dig at just corporations in general with the Pride, the Disneyland quote unquote.
Yeah, which is such a great visual gag. It's like a LGB turkey legs walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pride lunch, Pride whatever. Yeah.
BLM burgers.
Oh yeah, there's tons of stuff like that in this season. So you kind of have that with him, but he kind of comes into kind of conflict of in. I think a lot of what A Train this season was kind of supposed to also talk about was being kind of a black celebrity, being in a position of power, and how are you going to utilize that power and that influence, and then kind of being trying to actually speak out on these issues, but kind of being crushed by this other corporate force who what I mean, doesn't. It's like, yeah, we don't want to ruffle any feathers, but we'll have the person who is brutally murdering people. He'll just give an apology. Is that okay? I mean, he'll just give a good, decent little apology.
Just give a half-assed apology that goes so wrong so fast.
Yeah. Who you have is Blue Hawk here, who A Train comes in contention with, who's a person who's over patrolling black neighborhoods in this. I thought that I think that stuff with him. I think this season was pretty good. I think A Train like Mother's Milk. Like how kind of A Train is amongst the seven. I think the past couple of seasons there really wasn't really much with him there. Besides, okay, he killed kind of the Huey's girlfriend, and then he's looked at as like this big asshole kind of guy. I think this season there's a turn with him, especially the moment where he meets Huey at Herogasm. And, even though he did fuck up, he did make a mistake. And he hasn't paid for that mistake. I mean, he killed somebody, and he also killed his girlfriend.
Yeah, he killed several people. And
he's killed many people and has paid for nothing, basically.
And even Ashley points that out in dressing him down.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, because it happened to you, now you care.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I was with her. It's like, bitch, you were covering it up. Like, yeah, fuck you, Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but he does look at him in the eyes and just gives a good, I mean, he does
gives an actual
apology,
a genuine apology, which I was not expecting from what I know about A Train as a character thus far.
Oh yeah, and also let's also be fair if we're comparing comic. This is going a lot more than he was in the comics, where in the comics this was way quicker. He did not last as long as he has in this show.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I,
that's true for a lot of characters.
Yeah. So I kind of like what they kind of did with him this season, and with the conclusion of him, he ends up killing Blue Hawk, and then they give him his heart, and then now he's able to have his kind of powers again because he has this brand new heart now. But then the fact that he goes back to his brother who's now in the wheelchair because of Blue Hawk going crazy because of his violence. and saying that it's like, well, I didn't want you to kill him. I wanted you to have him face justice for what he did. To know that so my kids can see that, and how the fact that it's like
Mhm.
everything you touch you just ruin, and A Train kind of deserves that. I mean, a lot of these heroes. I mean, he's been very selfish and gotten away with things, killing people, doing terrible, awful things because he can, because he's a superhero.
Yeah,
Uh,
and even when he tries to do the right thing, it's never for the right reasons. It's because he wants to make himself feel better.
yeah. And it was funny that even his own family cracked on that ugly ass suit that he had on with all those kind of colors in it. Yeah,
As you should.
yeah. Um, yeah, so I kind of did like that stuff with him. Yeah, I thought this season was another kind of strong season. Besides for kind of the stuff I mentioned before about the Frenchie little Nina stuff, which I wasn't into. The kind of the stuff with Huey, I don't think Huey was as strong as he was the past seasons, but I still thought he was pretty good. But Mother's Milk was a big standout for me, and then his whole dynamic this season with his wife's new husband, Todd, I think is his name, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking Todd.
He just looks like a Todd, don't he? Like you just like if you had to come up with a name, like even if you didn't know his name, it's like, yeah, I bet your name is like Todd or something. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
It
Um,
was like, how do you make a character that I hate so much more than Homelander?
yeah. You hate him more than Homelander, you think? I saw some people say that.
Yeah, yeah, because he's a sniveling little bitch, and he is just so incredibly annoying in that he is like, "Hey, do your own research. Look outside the mainstream media. Like Starlight's trafficking in kids." He is that fucking QAnon bitch boy that needed the shit smacked out of him. When Mother's Milk decked him, I clapped.
Dusk, what about you? Do you think Todd, and then also some people were saying that Ryan was also for them more hated. They hated them more than Homelander this season. What are your feelings
Uh,
on that?
No, Ryan is a child. That I can forgive.
I can
Todd's
forgive
a grown
Ryan being
ass
a
man.
child. Okay, so mm, I Todd is a Todd is a sellout in every state of the word. How Monique got interested in him, I'm not sure.
I need to know how the fuck that happened.
I also think Monique is a is a terrible person. The only nice thing she ever said was at the very end, was like the very beginning with when she and Mother's Milk are talking, and she basically says, "Look, I'm sorry I put you through all that and trying to make you something that you aren't, and I'm really sorry about that stuff."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "That, thank you. That needed to have been said." That still doesn't change the fact that you went from a character who has clearly a lot of issues for Soups to a guy who loves the crap out of Homelander,
Yeah.
and you're just like, all right, like former husband that I still might have feelings for, but
Having
like
a
just divorce me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
having a fucking seven themed birthday party for their kid.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was a very like not cool in a lot of ways, and also how this season ends. Todd just solidifies what kind of a piece of crap he kind of is.
Yeah.
That he's just willing to. He's just such a yes man that he doesn't think about anything in the long run. And yeah, when he just gets belt, that's like yes, yes, that
Yeah,
needed to
which
happen.
which I think Todd is supposed to be because
Yes.
the show touches on so much with pop culture. Todd is meant to be like a stand-in for like a QAnoner.
Yeah, I want to also get into that before we kind of wrap up with our final thoughts on it and reviews. So this season, there was kind of you see a lot of parallels they've drawn between things like you have people who are like fans in this show. You have a crowd of people who are Stormfront supporters even after she got outed as a Nazi,
Yep.
and then you even have like an actual website called Stormfront, which is like a Nazi website. Even though you do have
Yeah,
that.
that's basically what Garth Ennis based the character on in the comic.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
Also,
did basically.
Stormfront. Yeah. Also, Stormfront in the comics is a guy,
Yeah.
and it took like 4 or 5. The way Stormfront is taken out in the comics is completely different. It's much more of like an ambush that doesn't go quite right, and then Butcher ends up finding a way to kind of ambush him when that all goes wrong because Stormfront likes to talk, and they work it out that way. Yeah, they actually have way more nuance with this. Way more. The
And
character's way
yeah,
better for it.
and the
This,
show basically makes her Laura Ingram with superpowers.
yeah.
Basically, yeah. So I wanted to kind of get you guys' opinion on that this season of when they kind of draw on these parallels. Do you think like those are too on the nose? Do you think it's too much? You know what I mean? Like so representative of like like Trump rallies and even Homelander as a Trump-esque figure.
I
Because
mean, the show kind of has always been that way.
okay,
The show has always been very on the nose with its satire and with its political commentary. Even as I say, the show's like has nuanced writing. The nuance comes from how it writes its characters in these situations. Everything else is very on the nose, and it pretty much has been since day one.
yeah. Well, I'm not sure how much on the nose it can be. I mean, if you have people who think that Soldier Boy and Homelander are anti-heroes, but uh,
Well, media literacy is dead.
yeah. Dusk, what do you kind of think? Do you think this season more than any other season is has more political commentary, or do you think it's about the same?
I think it has different political commentary, but there's more in some ways than there are in others. I think what this season did more is, look, we're just not going to talk to you about it or shove it in your face and do it. We're just going to put it there. We're not even going to try and force it. We're just going to be here's it surrounded. You figure it out, and it just it's just in the world.
Yeah, it points out why something like doing these kinds of like political stuff in the boys works versus when the CW does it in something like Supergirl, where in that show it's so on the nose and so shoved down your throat that even when I agree with what they're saying, it's getting annoying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just all in the tone and all in the writing of how you do it, and I think this show is perfectly does a great job at that. And I think the Todd character, speaking about this season of men and masculinity and all this other thing, you have a guy like that, in Todd who I think really lives his masculinity through a guy like Homelander. A guy that has all these powers that can do what he wants, and then you see with
Todd 100% had a Tyler Durden poster in college.
Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, yeah, I mean, he kind of lives through. You see, kind of some of these guys who do live through these kind of figures, and so kind of admires these figures. And then you have that with the Todd character, and then Homelander this season of saying what's on his mind and getting all this praise and love for it, something that he thought he'd be hated for saying. He has a fan base who just adores him for saying it. And then the final episode, the final moment of this episode, you have where Homelander, the guy throws something and then he just lasers him in front of everybody, and then he's met with applause. And it's like a trickle effect because one person, it's the Todd, it's his bitch ass. He starts cheering, and then everybody's like, okay, well, I guess if he's cheering, then hey, I guess it's cool. Then we can, we're having a good reaction to this.
Yeah, and it's like so horrific in that the past couple years that even if like a lot of politicians and public figures, even if we like deep down knew they were monsters, they would still try to save face publicly. And now it's like a guy can like openly admit to sexually assaulting women and get elected president.
Yeah.
I mean, like monsters don't even have to pretend to be like good people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, and then I guess we're gonna talk about also like thoughts for like what we think after that final moment. What's gonna probably lead up into kind of season 4. But also I kind of want to get to just like also one little issue I had before we do. So Soldier Boy's power, like his whole like, I was kind of a little confused on how it worked, like his radioactive ability. So does it kill lower level soups and humans, but then with people who are more powerful soup characters, it fries the V out of them, or
I think it like depends on how much V is like the TNT, like spoilers for Herogasm, because he vaporized the TNT twins,
Yeah.
and he like straight up like blasts them with that chest.
So, from what I understand, his power is it's like a de-atomizer. So basically, if you have any unnatural VOT, for stage one, any stage one that's around you, it will set off a chain reaction that will chemically just kill any soup that is unstable and has those very first ones. So for those of like his teammates, it would just nuke the crap out of them. Except for maybe Black Noir, who, because he got upped with more stuff, he'd be able to maybe survive it a little bit, but he's still going to be horribly damaged. Anyone who's basically artificially born, there's only one character that's basically completely immune from it, and that's Homelander's son, because he's the only naturally born, where he wasn't injected. It just got it through genetics. So he's the only one that's basically immune to that. Anyone else, even Homelander, if he got hit with the blast, he would just get completely like, damn it. If nothing else, if he didn't die from it, his power would be gone. It would be removed from his system, and he'd just be a normal human being.
Yeah. So when Maeve, when she tackled Soldier Boy out the window,
Yeah.
shouldn't she have? You think she should have died
this
or no?
This episode pretty explicitly says that Maeve is on the same level strength-wise as Homeland.
Yeah, so basically she would have her powers got removed. Yeah. Are we talking spoilers now?
Yeah. This is
okay. So basically, yeah, her powers got removed.
Okay, but before we get to like the Maeve thing, there's something that just made me die laughing. Because we get the reveal in the previous episode that Soldier Boy is Homelander's father. And they say at the beginning that he told Butcher and Huey. And there's like this coin flip of, is Soldier Boy gonna hold up his end of the deal and kill Homelander? And this entire like set up to be an emotional confrontation. And Jensen Ackles drops the line, maybe if I raised you, you wouldn't have turned out to be such a pussy. And I was like, I was just dying laughing.
like I said, that generational trauma, man. I mean, yeah, he's passed it down. Yeah, I mean, because it looked like it was
okay, but back
yeah.
to yeah, because I always thought that Soldier Boy and Homelander would team up against Butcher. That's where I thought this was going, based off last episode.
Yeah, but the Queen Maeve thing. So what were you saying there, Dusk, about the Queen Maeve?
Oh, Queen, yeah. So if she's at a similar level and her powers get removed and she's alive, that's the same thing will happen to Homelander, basically. She's near his strength, at least in that. If nothing else, he may not, even if he retains even a little bit of suit power, he's not going to be invulnerable anymore. He's not going to have whatever anymore. So that's what they need to get, and they've somehow still failed it every single time. And it's even now going to be even harder than it was before. The only one that's basically just probably is going to be immune is, well, Ryan. And Ryan's not in the best hands at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is speaking so well about like generational trauma. Because I'm sure Butcher, when he kind of told off Ryan, he did it with the intent on protecting him. It was like, stay away from me, kid. You'll be safer that way.
Yeah.
And he just ended up pushing him into the hands of Homelander.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought, it was a great final episode with a lot of great moments. The fight scenes in this show have been very good, especially for a show that, with the budget it has. I think it does a great job. Like in episode 6 with Herogasm, when it was Butcher and Huey and Soldier Boy versus Homelander. That was, I thought, a great fight sequence. And in this final scene, final episode where you have all of them teaming up against Soldier Boy, and even a little kind of team up between Butcher and Homelander where they kind of give that look to each other. I thought that was a great moment.
It's like the second you lay a hand on the kid, we good?
Yeah. Which if you know about the comics, Butcher, he wouldn't have given a fuck about that kid. That's for sure. I don't think he would have done anything for that.
Oh, in the comics, it's way worse and way less interesting. Where it's Homelander rapes Becca, and then a year she tries to hide the pregnancy until the baby basically just claws its way out of her and she dies, and then it's like with its laser eyes and crap, and then he belts it to death with the lamppost, and that's why he hates Soups. Anybody's gonna kill Homelander, and you're like, cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Yeah, no, it's super edgelord.
Yeah. So yeah. In regards to that final scene from this season, where do you guys think season 4 is going?
So there's an arc in the comic about Vicky Newman, who in the show is played by they're basically doing that, and it is essentially a coup by Vought to take over the country, and starts like relaxing a lot of the laws against superheroes and letting them basically run wild. And I think that's where the show is going.
Okay. Dusk?
Yeah, I think I think the show of Homelander not shying away from what he is anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's done pretending to be loved, and now he's like, well,
no, he realized
adage.
He realized that he can be as monstrous as to be and still be loved.
Yep. The whole time he was trying to play face. Now he's just like, nah, I think I'll just be me now. And
I'm Homelander, and I can really do whatever the fuck I want.
Basically, yeah. And so he's going to show off. What will be interesting is seeing how Billy's going to deal with that, because now he's basically failed his final words to his wife. He basically failed. He's failed twice now. And he let Ryan be handed in the hands of a monster that she never wanted in the first place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're going to have to deal with that. He's also terminal at this point from using too much V24. He's keeping that hidden for now.
Yeah.
Huey hopefully is just going to stop taking the crap, because I think he doesn't want to do it anymore, and he's seeing what he's becoming, and he's like, nah, man, I want to keep some of my soul. I still have a chance to save myself, and I'm going to do it. And everyone else is like, yeah, we want you to stay you.
It's like that entire speech that he gives to Starlight. That entire monologue. It's back. Yeah, when I was a kid, my dad would just wouldn't fight for after my mom left, and he always saw it as weakness, but he was really just staying strong for Huey, which I thought was a very beautifully done scene and a great performance by Jack Quaid. And so finally Huey got his head out of it. And even just like that little line, it was like, yeah, I know every neuron in your brain is screaming to tell me I told you so.
I also think Starlight needs to take a piece of humble pie, and there's also interesting, a lot of people started to hate Starlight this season because
no, Starlight is the one actual superhero on this entire
I think
show.
Some people started to hate some aspect when she started hitting on Huey. The thing about the show is both characters are written well, that you see where both characters are coming from, and even with Huey being as it, you get where he's coming from. It's like, well, this is you. It's not just the drugs, it's just you. And it's like, I also saw my girlfriend completely obliterated in front of my eyes, and I've been basically weak my entire life, and now I have a moment of strength. Get off your fucking high horse. And she's like, cool, I'm going to get off my high horse now. And then he's like, okay, well, now I'm going to apologize because, now you're off your high horse. And now we can see each other on mutual terms. It was in that moment, it's like sometimes emotion has a way of contradicting us when we do need to just extend the hand.
Yeah, but also emotion does that by its very nature.
I know, but I'm saying that's what makes it
rational
good.
Decisions when emotional.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's good in that nature of it. Huey's fine. Other characters are going to be fine. We'll do something interesting. The one thing I was surprised by, and kind of feels like a waste, is what they kind of did with Noir's character. And I feel
he was teed up so well in the 7th episode, where we get that animated flashback, and we get a peek of how Noir sees the world. He sees like a whole bunch of the animated characters with him.
Yeah. Do you think
that shot in the last episode of him like strolling through the halls of Vought Tower with the fucking like Buster Beaver cartoon just like charging along right next to him.
Yeah.
That just made me laugh.
So do you think that Black Noir is coming back? And some people like, because that was some of the issues. It's like, wow, you teed up this character, gave him all his backstory just to kill him this
I
season.
don't think he's dead.
So okay.
Personally speaking, I think he has
he
Wolverine powers. I think he has like really, really, really good reconstitutional abilities. Because how the hell do you survive what Soldier Boy did to you after that fact? I think it's a case of after you did damage to him, he didn't have that power before, but when they brought him in, they injected him, and then he got that like X Factor power after the fact, so it couldn't heal previous damage.
Yeah, I think this is also in a way adapting where his story goes in comics. It's a way of like putting that fuse and that rage against Homeland.
Oh shit! I had a thought. What if they take in a way to counter, because Homelander's going to do this shit? What if that's like, okay, well, we don't want him to die because he's super useful. He has these X Factor. What if we put a little Homelander DNA in there and then just see what happens? And that's how they can get kind of sort of with it, but with a different twist.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going there, Koki? How you doing there, man?
There's crazy crap in there. Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where they're going with it. I mean, you know what? I'm happy about that. I'm happy that I don't know exactly where it's going to go.
I think his character is too interesting, especially now, to just kill him off and put him into the embrace of Christ the Lord this soon.
Basically, yeah. No, I don't think he's done. I think that's a sad way of taking him out of the big fight, but I don't think he's down for the count. I think he's quote unquote killed. Quote unquote. If I was a writer on the show, that wouldn't be the last time. I wouldn't have set all that up just to throw him away for a narrative reason. Like, no, there's too much to his character. We can't just throw him out now.
So, I mean, did you guys answer that question? Do you think Maeve should have been killed? Do you think she should have been killed?
Honestly, after like the last like 2 seasons, I think Maeve deserves a happy ending.
Yeah, she's not gonna get it. The boys, nobody's gonna get a happy ending in the boys, except maybe Mother's Milk. He'll be all right. Mother's Milk and maybe a couple characters who aren't super involved, probably gonna have a happy ending. Maybe Huey, like in the comics, he might have somewhat of a happy ending, but other characters, this isn't going to end well for people, and I think it will end a hell of a lot better than it did in the comics. The comics ending, despite the really good twist that they basically just removed from the show, didn't really have a lot to desire for the ending. So it better be better than that.
Ratings?
It already has a low bar.
I mean, it's not a high bar to clear.
No, it's not really high.
Final ratings?
I've loved every single season of this show. Even season 2, which people like claim is like a step down. I gave that a 10 out of 10. I gave that This Is Cinema. Every single season of this show has been This Is Cinema levels for me.
Okay.
I think how it balances this just charcuterie board of characters that they have in constantly advancing their stories and their arcs, even taking stylistic leaps, like having a full musical number, having an entire animated sequence, having an entire flashback episode with Billy, how they did that and how every single one of those choices was used to advance a character.
Yeah.
This is cinema for me.
Okay. Dust?
I think this season brought back the better quality. I think season 2. I think season 2 was a bit of a downer in comparison to the first season, but I think this is a better writing of the ship. I wouldn't say season 2 was bad by any measure, but I do think it did lower its quality a bit. Went a little too far in some places than it did. But
I think even with the lower quality of season 2, that finale fucking rips.
I mean, I'm not going to say
girls get it done.
Jesus. You know what? Yeah, no, I mean, there was a lot of great memes from that made, rightfully so, making fun of Marvel and that whole, like, Endgame thing. That's great.
I mean, you have 3 superpowered women
Yeah.
curb stomping a Nazi. That is gonna get like the bar is like a 9 out of 10.
I guess what I was saying is this show, it is impressing me how much that they're taking time for these characters and giving them moments of nuance and allowing tone to be appropriately spread throughout. I think if you're gonna watch this show, I think any other show should at least watch these seasons and understand how to do tone. Because I think this is one of the very few shows that knows how to balance both the serious tone and the lighter one for levity without being completely a joke, and still keep its seriousness without wasting it and making it part of the universe. I can't give this that this is cinema. I can't quite. I'm not quite there. There's just certain little small things here and there that I can't quite give it. But this is a tune in. Like, go ahead, check it out. It's if this is not your forte, totally get it. Totally not your thing. I normally wouldn't really be into this. I know I like horror, but I usually don't like dour stuff. But this has just enough stuff that keeps me interested, even with the dour subject. And they're able to balance that very well. So, for even someone who's like me, who doesn't like darker, like I'm not darker. I don't just like depressing stuff. I can watch horror all the time. It's not as.
I feel like you don't like edgelordy dark
Yes,
stuff.
I like horror with horror that's fun, or horror that's a point.
You like dour horror as long as it has a point, or
Correct.
at least it has something thematic going on.
Right. Or it's just not so crazy and doesn't matter, and so I don't have to worry about it.
And this show does. This show takes all of that and balances it beautifully.
Right. So I can't give it anything less than a tune in. Can't not do it. It's super strong. Check it out if you haven't already. Now's a good time to hop on. You won't be disappointed. Just don't get close to anybody early on in the series. Just let you know. Don't get attached.
It's amazing that a comic book like Garth Ennis's The Boys got adapted by Eric Kripke, and it turned into one of the best. I wouldn't even say best comic book shows. I would say one of the best shows on television.
Yeah, it's like one of those situations where quality of the book of Game of Thrones was able to be adjusted at first surprisingly well. Despite a disastrous pilot, it ended up being able to get the right people involved, not including the writers, but the production and everything else around it, and the screenplay and the producers, to kind of just make this thing work. And that's what kind of that magic, which you want from a series. And that's kind of what, it's like that magic moment is happening again, and we're able to see it. And you're like, this is what happens when everyone's firing on all cylinders, and they're all focused on something.
And when you're teed up by an amazing pilot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I would give it a high tune in for myself. Besides for the little issues I mentioned, the stuff with Frenchie, I wasn't really all that interested in. I think the stuff with the Deep, it's kind of a little bit of a one note stuff with him. But overall, I think this is a very, very strong show, and I'm excited to see what they do with season 4. The Boys continues to be great. Love what they're doing this series. Love the cast. Love the creative team behind it. Amazing show. Amazing show. One of the best shows on TV right now, I think, that you can watch. Even if you're not into superhero stuff, I think it goes beyond just being a superhero show. I think that it also has a lot of great stuff in there when it comes to the political commentary, the social satire, all that stuff that you can really get into that is very humorous. Great series.